Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit's, and we have for you today something very special indeed. You probably know my love for Killing Floor. I've mentioned it on many occasions. And this is a very early build of Killing Floor 2. This is prior to early access, which is scheduled to come out somewhat later. So we're going to be seeing a limited amount of what the new game from Tripwire has to offer. We're going to be fielding some questions. We're going to be playing on hard mode, and we're going to attempt to get to the boss, assuming that we don't all die horribly in the process, which is entirely possible. So just bear that in mind. All right. I have a team of developers who are significantly better at the game than I am. So let's ready up and rock and roll.
Let's do it.
And hopefully we'll actually reach the end of this level. The name of this map is Burning Paris. If you hadn't realized by the fact that the Statue of... That's not the Statue of Liberty. What am I talking about? My geographical knowledge is weak, clearly. The Eiffel Tower is falling over in the corner there, which is certainly very unfortunate. I'm not really sure how the zombies managed to do that, but, you know, we're not going to argue with them. Alright, well, we will, but we're going to be doing it via the means of bullets. So I'm starting off as the Commando class, which is one of the 4 perks available. Now, I heard someone mention earlier that you're looking to have 10 perks. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to have a total of 10 perks, and each perk can level up to level 25.
Wow.
And every 5 levels you get to pick between a skill. And the skills you can modify, like, by going back to it at any time. But this will really allow you to customize the perk the way you want to play.
Yeah, because in the original game, of course, those that remember, you had, if I recall correctly, and you may have patched it since it was like 6 levels total, I think you started off with 5, and then you added another one in post-release content. And every time you got what was basically a static benefit each time, and it was set depending on what class you'd like. Start off with a weapon, start off with additional ammunition, all that kind of stuff. But this time around, you also have what appear to be stat boosts as well as skills every time you level up.
Yeah, so we keep all the passive abilities that we had in Killing Floor 1, and then on top of that, we've added the skills. So it just adds like an extra level to it, you know, and it's a lot more enjoyable to level up in Killing Floor 2. A lot of people know from the original it took a day and a year just to get from like level.
Yeah, it took a long time, especially because you had requirements that got kind of ridiculous at times. I think I ended up being stuck on level 3 explosives for ages, demolitions, just because I couldn't do the little achievements that it was asking me to do in order to level up.
Yeah, and this is John Gibson, president of Tripwire. So one of the things we've done this time is we've gotten rid of the ridiculous requirements.
Okay.
So this time around, you still have to do things specific to your perk, but everything that you do within your perk will build up generic XP. So, you know, for instance, in the first game, you may have had to kill a ton of stalkers to rank up your Commando perk and also do a bunch of Commando damage. This time, you can do either or. So if you happen to just kill a whole bunch of things, but not enough stalkers, you'll still be ranking up your character.
Fair enough. Now, I've switched out to the SA-80. Some of you may have noticed that the lovely weapons dealer appears to have turned into a 3D printer, by the looks of it, which is... I mean, I support her life choices. Let me put it that way. You know, whatever she wants to be, she could be anything. Now she's a 3D printer. Oh, hello. Now, dudes coming down from the ceiling. I can't remember them doing that previously, although I haven't played Killing Floor in quite some time. Is that a new way for the Zeds to actually attack? Is that something that you put into Killing Floor 2?
Yeah, my name's Bill Monk, by the way, and I'm a creative director. I didn't get a chance to say that before.
Sure.
We've added all new types of entries that the creatures can come from. So they can actually come from the floors, wall vents. They can pour out of the ceiling, and it just makes it a lot more. You're a lot more unsure of where they're going to come from.
Yeah, and we're playing on hard difficulty, which is why on Wave 2 we already have husks and the invisible ones and all sorts of horrible things like that. It's getting a little bit messy pretty fast in here.
Yeah, it's actually very challenging to talk and try to survive.
Welcome to my job. This is the excuse I use every time I die in every game I play. Let's get away from that. That's probably going to explode in my face. We don't want that. There we go.
Grenade out.
Now, I'm noticing there's what appears to be a healing grenade going off right there in the middle of the screen.
That was mine. I'm Jared Creasy, Community Manager for Tripwire, and I'm playing as the medic today, trying to keep everybody alive.
So far, doing a relatively good job.
Interesting anecdote about the medic grenade. And the first game, we had it as this toxic green-looking color, and for some reason, everybody thought it was poison.
I guess it would, actually, come to think of it, yeah.
So this time we made it look like candy, so everyone will want to run into it.
Lovely. You should have made it look like Dosh, then everyone would have wanted to run into it. Fantastic.
There you go.
There you go, a few bullets in the face, there we go. And you will notice, of course, if those of you happen to play Tripwire games, no, there is no crosshair. You can enable a crosshair. There is one in the options menu. But, of course, if you want the authentic experience, you probably want to turn that off, and you've got this big weapon sway going on as well.
Whew, all right.
Good job, guys.
All right, down into the subway.
Little cash for that. Very disappointing. There we go. Never mind.
Yeah, you were mentioning the perks earlier. I think one of the really enjoyable things about the ranking up the perks Bill mentioned earlier were the perk skills. That every 5 levels of your 25 levels of the perk, you get a skill that you can apply, but it's always a trade-off. So sometimes you can choose between skills that are very team-oriented, such as the support perk has one called the supplier skill, where if they get the supplier skill, they'll carry a backpack that your teammates can refill their ammo from once per wave. It kind of makes you popular with your teammates.
I imagine it would.
Or you could just pick something that gives you more damage. So you can. There are those interesting gameplay trade-offs now that as you customize your perk.
Sure. Those are looking at the buy menu, by the way, wondering why there aren't that many weapons. There are going to be far more perks than this. I believe you were talking 10, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's right. Our goal is to have 10. For early access, we wanted to get a subset of those 4 core perks in, and then we're going to be building on that during the early access period.
Yeah, so each of the perks has weapons that they prefer to use, and you get statistical damage boosts, but you can use weapons from any perk depending on your situation.
Absolutely. And that's one of our goals for the new game. In Killing Floor 1, you almost had to play on perk weapons to be effective on the higher difficulty levels. This time around, we didn't want the bonuses that you get with the weapons to be so high that you'd be completely ineffective playing with off-perk weapons. Because sometimes a player wants to roll around with an assault rifle and a shotgun.
Absolutely. Or a flamethrower and a chainsaw, because, you know,
Exactly.
why the hell not?
Exactly.
There we go. Have some of that. Currently using
Door's
the
taking a beating over here.
SA-80, thoroughly British choice of weapon.
Good bit of kit.
Absolutely, I would say so. At least if it's one of the later models. The earlier stuff apparently gummed up a lot, which is not exactly ideal.
Door down somewhere.
Well, that's what happens when you don't have HK fix your weapons before you put them out.
Well, yes. Oh, hello. Yeah, one of our doors is going down.
Door coming down.
Yeah, I'm going to grenade this thing as soon as it opens. Here you go. Have some of that. That should do the trick.
Looks like the siren negated our grenades there.
That was horribly disappointing, really. It's like I was expecting bits to go everywhere, and it didn't happen. Speaking of bits, you lot have upgraded the engine significantly. Those that played the original Killing Floor knew that I believe it was actually on the Unreal 2 engine. Fairly heavily modified version of that. That was correct, yeah?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes, now you're on Unreal 3 point something. So you haven't gone Unreal 4 with this, but you have a very new version of Unreal 3.
Yeah, so we're calling it Unreal 3.75. We've added fully dynamic lighting. We've added this persistent Gore system, a lot of high-end rendering tech, high-end depth of field, full screen, screen space reflections. Really, we've developed some cool stuff in-house, and we've also been grabbing features from UE4 and bringing them into this version of the engine.
Oh, nice.
And let's not forget blood that never goes away.
Persistent Gore
blood.
all over the place, yeah. You know, if your level doesn't look like a charnel house by the end of it, then frankly you're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
Speaking of, this guy wants my head. There we go, you're gonna have some of that. So what other advantages did moving the engine over to Unreal 3 actually provide? Because even when you released Killing Floor, for a lot of people, they were saying, like, why is this on the Unreal 2 engine? I mean, that seems a little out of date even for whenever Killing Floor actually came out. So there had to be a bunch of limitations that really restricted what you could do with the game.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, visually, obviously, UE2 could only be pushed so far. But one of the really big things that was different was the modability and the extendability. UE2 was really designed back in a day when, you know, everything that you wanted to load into memory in the game, you loaded all at once. You know, nowadays, you know, with high-res textures and normal maps and things like that, you just can't do that. So UE3 was built with the ability to stream content in and out dynamically. In Killing Floor 1, we really got to the point where we were kind of at the limit of the things that we could add to the game. It was just, you know, anytime we added more stuff to the game, we had to increase our system requirements, which made it really, really difficult to add cool new stuff, which is one of the things we like to do. So UE3, because it can stream in content in and out, load things dynamically, we can essentially extend the game forever, and that's really exciting for us.
You mentioned modability. Now, of course, plenty of people messed with things like server settings. We had these... I forgot to buy ammo. I am a moron. Wow, this is... All right, I'm going to have to resort to... oh, it's not about money. I can't open the damn thing anymore. I've got pulverizers and
Oh, you got
grenades.
pulverizers. You're
I'll
good,
be all right. There we go. We'll just have a little bit of fun with that. So, a lot of people modified the servers to have like 30-player servers and all sorts of ridiculous stuff like that. Is mod support something that you are... I wouldn't say necessarily prioritizing, but actually... well, supporting within Killing Floor 2?
Oh yeah, that's a huge part of it for us. I mean, we got our start, you know, as modders.
Indeed, with the original Killing Floor. Yeah.
Yeah, we're big into modding.
Outside.
So for us,
Biscuit, ammo right here.
Everything we've done from the very beginning of development has.
Scrag coming in the back door.
We constantly ask the question.
Up the stairs.
You know, is this going to be easily extendable? Will this be moddable? So when we ship early access, we're going to have the ability. We're going to ship a mod SDK. We will have the ability to do custom maps and custom content. And then during the early access period, we're going to be adding full code mod support.
Very cool. All right. Now, so far, we've really just noticed the same kind of enemies. And you did mention that you've decided to do something a little bit different with the difficulty. I think with a lot of games, especially like this horde mode games, when you turn up the difficulty, what happens is you'll either spawn more monsters, or you'll make monsters pretty bullet spongy. They can just take more hits. But what you're telling me is that this time around you decided not to go that route. So I'd like to know what exactly it is that makes hard and the ridiculous difficulty levels much harder this time around.
Yeah, so we've added, like, each creature has a total new set of moves that they do. So, for instance, these clots, you see, they just kind of walk at you. Well, if you play on Suicidal or Hell on Earth, if you shoot them and don't finish them off, they're going to actually charge you.
Right.
Every creature has a whole new set of attacks, abilities. It just, your reflexes and knowing what you need to do has to be so much more on point to survive. But your weapons still feel like strong and badass.
Yeah, that's a key point for us, because we didn't want it to where, you know, as you level up your character and you play on a higher difficulty, you encounter an enemy that used to take 3 shots to kill, but now your shotgun's 3 times as powerful and they still take 3 shots to kill. You know, we hate it when other games do that, and we've been guilty of that ourselves in the past. So we really wanted to look for ways to make the game more difficult without just cranking up numbers. And just seeing guys start doing crazy flips and weird jumping attacks, and you know, it's exciting. It gives you something to look forward to as you level up and as you move on to the higher difficulty levels.
Yeah, I often find that advancing difficulty levels in games like this can actually be something of a negative, and a lot of people prefer to play the easier difficulty levels because they hate the feeling that their guns just suck. And there's so many games that have fallen into that very trap, so it's nice to hear that that's certainly going to be a factor.
Yeah.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, we even fell into that trap in Killing Floor 1. You play on normal difficulty, and you know, you could one-shot pistol kill a clot to the head, then you'd play on hard or suicidal, and you'd shoot them 5 or 6 times, and all of a sudden your guns felt weak.
It's not remotely satisfying when you do that. Yeah. Now, you did mention that, obviously with the difficulty increases, you've got new movesets. But so far, we've seen the same enemies. And obviously, this, as we should remind people, this is pre-early access. So there's a lot of content still to be put in the game. But do you have any plans for additional enemy types?
We definitely have, we have nothing that we want to announce just yet. But we definitely have plans and goals for new enemy types and bosses.
So, and one of what you're seeing so far is there is two new enemy types already. There is the cyst, which is kind of a clot that has not been in the oven long enough.
Okay.
You know, he's kind of almost like a baby, but a baby that wants to eat your face off.
Lovely.
And you have the slasher, which is kind of like a how could I say this? He's a mistake on the tree of the development of clots. He's completely maniacal, but uncontrollable. And Bell, you probably can.
Yeah, I mean, basically just picture like a psychopathic crackhead that can rip your arms off.
All right, let's head down the subway, guys.
Man, gore everywhere.
So
Nice.
you asked earlier, you know, one of the benefits of the upgraded engine. One of the things you'll see as we fight in here.
Jared, can you not shoot the lights out, please?
Fully dynamically lit, and as we battle in here, this area, as we throw grenades, as the sirens scream, the lights will start to break. This area will get less and less desirable to fight in, which kind of encourages players to move around the map. Because one of the things that people did in the first killing floor was they'd find their one hiding hole and they'd stay there the entire match, which got a little boring. So now we're kind of trying to encourage the players to move around the map. So the dynamic light, it's not just a whiz-bang, look at me feature. It's really a gameplay affecting feature.
Yeah, because obviously with the less light, you're going to be more limited in what you can see. It makes defending an area boatload harder, and a lot of these weapons don't actually have lights on them. If I want to use a weapon with a light, I think the one I have to use is the pistol currently. My bullpup doesn't have one. Yeah,
depending upon which perk you have, the certain perks have more flashlights on their weapons than others. So it's kind of a trade-off between power and visibility.
A few bullets down range. I notice you have dynamically flying rubbish bins by the looks of it. There's a lot of props on the map that move around.
And that would be a flesh pound we just heard.
Oh my, oh my. Okay.
There he is.
Oh, I see him.
Yeah, where's he at?
Right side.
He's coming. I think the grenade hit him. Hope so.
Get him.
Oh, got him.
Where'd he go?
Good job, good job.
Oh, hello. We got friends from the back.
Oh.
Oh, man, what a mess. There's a husk at the back as well.
Scrake coming down a long hall.
Yep, straight. Yeah, as you saw it, once we fought that flesh pound over here, now this area is just completely dark because we all grenaded it.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, you're completely right. It's like now I can't see a damn thing, and we probably don't want to be here anymore.
Yep, pretty much.
Illuminated solely by the light of the biokiller machine. That's just terrifying. So, if I was in the position where I'd played quite a lot of Killing Floor, and I'd maybe had my fill of it, and you come along and tell me, look, we want you to buy our new Killing Floor game. And this fellow is fairly skeptical and says, well, what was wrong with the old Killing Floor? What would your answer be to that? Why should people buy Killing Floor 2?
Well,
I would say when Ford made the first car, it got you around, but better cars came out.
It's a fair point.
Well, I think for me, it's, you know, what we didn't want to do is reinvent the wheel with the core gameplay loop. I mean, we kind of wanted to take a similar approach to like what Valve has done with Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Go, is maintain that really fun core gameplay loop and then just build on top of it. So, but whereas CSGO is real similar to Counter-Strike, I would say this is like Killing Floor +++. You know, we just wanted to ramp everything up, ramp up the weapon handling, ramp up the gore, ramp up the intensity of the enemies, you know, with the really cool enemy attacks. You know,
It's great, guys.
Hello.
Add new monsters, add new bosses, add the ability to custom tailor your perks to play the way that you wanted.
Oh.
There you go. That's a good answer. Now, where the hell did that Scrake go? Oh, my. Okay.
Yeah, I think one thing to add, too, is this is basically like this is what we always wanted Killing Floor to be, with, you know, a lot of time and a bigger budget. And,
sure.
Yeah, I think, too, I mean, you can see, hopefully, when you play the game, is an additional 6 years of experience that Tripwire has gained in developing games. I mean, we were still a pretty young company, young studio back when we made Killing Floor. You know, we do things so much better. We do weapons so much better. We do AI so much better. We do, you know, we make a lot less bugs now.
It's usually a good thing to learn when you're developing video games. So let me call you on one thing that you just said there. You said, we make weapons better. Well, Killing Floor had really great weapon handling. That was the thing that really stood out to me. Every gun felt like it packed a punch. It was satisfying to use. How does one improve on that? And more to the point, how do you make a gun feel that way in the first place when you're developing it? What are the aspects that go into making a gun feel like a powerful, dealer of death?
So really, it's multiple things, And Bill and I are two of the main guys that are kind of the weapons freaks at the office. I do a lot of the weapon coding. Bill does a lot of the weapon animation along with his crew. Really, you have to have very fluid animation. You have to have animation that really captures the feel of how a weapon moves. It's very easy to just generically animate a weapon moving back and forth, but both Bill and I studied, slow motion footage of weapons firing to really get them to move like the real thing. The other thing is, satisfactory audio. You got to have, if a weapon looks punchy and powerful, it's got to sound punchy and powerful. But finally, it's, a big part of it is dealing the right amount of damage. If you have something that looks like a big beast shotgun and you walk up to a monster and you give it to the monster with both barrels and he just looks at you, it's not a satisfying experience. So you really have to balance those three things out.
That's a good explanation of how it actually works. That's fantastic. All right, we've got friends coming in this direction. I'm going to switch out to the AK, which seems like it's more of a kind of contractor, private military firm variant on the AK by the looks of it.
Yeah, and one thing that you asked about what's new in the new game that we haven't talked about yet, and Bill's baby is the melee system.
Scrake incoming, subway.
Yeah, so I mean, it was our goal to make melee, so enjoyable that even people who don't like to use guns would enjoy using the melee. But yeah, keep it really simple and intuitive to use.
Yeah, so you don't have anything like crazy combos and special moves you can do with it.
Yeah, so I mean, basically whatever direction you're moving towards, when you hit the primary fire, you'll do a series of light attacks. Mm-hmm. And right-click will do the hard attacks. And when you start really understanding how it works, you can really do like exactly what you want. Like if you want to cut a guy right down the half vertically, you just press forward and do it.
I'm about to die.
It's really enjoyable. Oh,
I may have possibly tried to melee a flesh pound. Might not have been a good idea. And that's the flesh pound's crotch. Fantastic.
So I think one of the big goals with the melee system was really, in KF1 the guns felt really good, but the melee weapons felt kind of crap.
Yeah.
So this time around, we really wanted to get melee on par with the guns, and we wanted to make a system that was easy to pick up but actually challenging to master. So you can do some really interesting things with the melee weapons. For instance, you can even block incoming attacks from the Zeds, knock them back, stun them, and you kind of have this little actual just brawl with Zeds with the melee weapons, which is kind of fun. But you can also just hammer the button and get some pretty interesting kills with it.
Yeah, just kind of swinging away, taking off heads and things like that. It certainly did. That's an unpleasant looking.
Yeah, see, I don't know if you noticed right there, but I actually countered the Scrake attack.
Ah, okay, so you can actually do that. Did I just notice that invisible one do a front flip there?
You probably did.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was pretty funny early on in the development. We decided we had brought over our hit detection system from RO2, and I mentioned in KF1 the hit detection was really, really limited for the headshots. So for Killing Floor 2, in Killing Floor 1, their head couldn't move very much from its default position, or we couldn't detect the hits. Mm-hmm. Well, for Killing Floor 2, I remember telling Bill, I said, you know what, our hit detection is so advanced, you could have a Zed doing a cartwheel and we could still detect a headshot.
So you literally put a cartwheel in it just to prove a point.
So I think Bill took that as a challenge.
All right.
Like, okay, well, let's test that out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but just the way the creatures move, they all have like a lot of personality. Everything is fully mocapped in the game, and even the crawler,
I was gonna say, how exactly did you mocap that?
So there's this guy named Giacomo Harvey.
And he's actually a giant spider in real life.
Exactly. He's a 10-year capoeira expert. And this guy can do stuff that you would, it makes you tired just watching him.
Wow, okay.
But, yeah, it's basically, this project's also a dream come true as far as just being able to, the level of animation that we have in it. Each creature has about 300 to 400 different animations. There's 95 just on death that randomly blend in with the ragdoll, depending on what direction they're hit and which area of their body they're hit on. But it's all these little details that come together to give you a very enjoyable experience of just killing them over and over and over.
I think I must have dropped my pulverizer there. Well, never mind. Let's swap out. I can get my Kalashnikov back. Actually, I can afford the scar. There we go. Let's get that. Thank you for the dosh. Much appreciated.
If you got enough, get Scar and AK.
Yeah, I do, actually. So if I can sell the varmint rifle, get the AK, fill that up, make sure I get combat armor. Now, this is the boss phase, right? Or, oh, is it the one phase before? One more phase, okay. All right.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but this whole round, I've been doing nothing but the melee with the Berserker perk.
And that's totally viable this time around. You're not going to run into any problems at harder difficulty levels with that.
If you got the skills.
Ah, okay.
Zed's up top.
But yeah, I find melee, it's very addictive. Like countering and blocking and blowing them up.
It definitely feels a lot better. I think it really comes down to weight. Like, I think the system in Killing Floor 1 was very spammy. It didn't really have a lot of nuance to it.
Yeah.
And
all right, Zed's beating on the door over here.
It didn't feel good either because you were often the first one to die. You know, you were always taking hits or getting slowed down by clots and things like that, and that just wasn't pleasant.
Doors down.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you noticed, but on the pulverizer, you can actually, if you do the heart attack, on contact, it'll explode.
A double flash pound over here.
Right, double flash pound behind us.
Oh god. Okay. Grenades coming out.
I think I in-capped him. Alright, he's down.
Husk is down. Yeah, I just got squelched with whatever that was.
To that healing grenade.
Alright, let's get inside that. Have some of that. There you go.
We got Scrake.
Scrake.
He's not happy with me. Kiting him around the...
I got him,
trying to kite him. There you go.
There we go.
Took a bit of a beating. Nothing too bad there.
Nothing a pulverizer can't fix.
Alright, they're all coming from the bloody
Zed's
ceiling
everywhere.
now. Let's get the bloody AK out. Spray and pray. When you absolutely, positively have to kill every Zed in the room.
Indeed.
That should certainly do the trick. Now, let's talk about monetization, because you guys released quite a lot of free content, and then you released a lot of skin packs, and you also released a few weapon packs. Didn't do it too much. One of them was just a golden weapon pack, but you did release some weapons that were kind of premium. So, what kind of DLC plans do you have for Killing Floor 2 in terms of the way that you're going to monetize the game?
So really, I mean, we're still working on our plans for that. We're playing around with some ideas, but the main idea is anything that you have to have, maps, etc., will always be free. we don't want to separate our community ever.
Yeah, it's a particularly bad idea, I tend to find.
If we do sell weapons, they'll always be side grades or different gameplay, but there won't ever be some, this is the most powerful weapon in the game and you can only get it if you give us more money.
Sure.
You know, this isn't a free game. I mean, not that I support that even in free-to-play games, but you know, people are paying for it, so they need to get a well-rounded amount of content for their dosh. I mean, really,
They're coming in. Double doors.
A lot of it is going to be focused, most likely be focused around, you know, visual things like characters or outfits for your characters or things like that. You know, hey, I want to look cool, not, hey, I need this to be able to have fun, so buy it.
Yeah, it's not a good way to keep people happy and keep your community going. And Killing Floor has had a surprising amount of durability in terms of like how long it's survived. There's still an active community playing it to this day, and that game's been out, what, 10 years now, give or take?
Yeah. I just looked the other day, and it was kind of. I mean, I don't want to pick on them, but I was actually kind of sad for them. There were about as many people playing Killing Floor 1 as there was people playing Evolve on Steam, which was actually kind of scary for them, good for us, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, I question their business model, frankly, and just the way that they happen to release the game, but obviously we won't really get into that, but it can happen, you know, there are people that are still playing ancient games on Steam just because, hey, they're great, you know, they have the replayability, they have the community, and they sustain the goodwill throughout.
Yeah, I mean, that's really important for us. I mean, we just, you know, Killing Floor is 6 years old now, and even, you know, right before Christmas, we put out another free update with a new map and some new content. You know, we really are into supporting the community with free content, and it's not just that we're altruistic. Part of it is, you know, we just love doing it. I mean, I guess it's kind of our modern background, but we love just, you know, when you release a game, you don't really feel like it's done, no matter how done it is. It's so enjoyable to continue to add stuff to your game after release.
This fellow looks a little different to what I remember from the Patriarch in Killing Floor 1.
He lost some weight.
He did. Yeah. He's been to the gym. He's made some gains.
Stay in here, guys.
Yeah, it's probably a bad idea. I'm heading out to the street.
Yeah, right. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Oh, he's filled the room with gas. That's lovely. Let's not be here. So this new boss, then, what's his name and what does he do?
His name is Hans Voltar.
Okay.
He is a 100-year-old Nazi evil doctor character that is keeping himself alive with Horzine technology.
And also happens to have some nasty claws, a jetpack, and what appear to be gas grenades.
Yeah, he has this Elysium-style kind of mech suit on.
Exoskeleton, yeah.
Yeah, and as we were saying before, this is just one out of the other
look out,
bosses
he's after
we have a gold
got me.
If you can heal Jared.
Heal me.
So when he gets wounded, he will find someone and target them and drain their life.
Right.
Which replenishes his.
Oh, he brought friends. We have invisible.
And he gets new attacks every phase. Every time he draws life, he busts out a whole new set of attacks.
He's not happy with me.
And he really likes you for some reason.
Yeah, I recall the last time we went, he went for me every time on the life drain. And I'm about to die. I'm down. Well,
we will avenge you.
Spectate the rest of it. See if we can actually beat this thing on hard. How many more difficulty levels are there beyond this? Because this is hard, which is one level up from normal.
So there's four
two more.
Yep.
Suicidal and what was the last
one?
Hell
on Earth.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
The aptly named Hell on Earth.
That sounds pleasant.
Really, the goal with Hell on Earth is to make a difficulty that we can't even beat in the office.
Have you managed to beat it yet?
There's some really insanely talented Killing Floor 1 players out there that are gonna.
Yeah. We
really
have not beat it.
Yeah, just need a challenge.
Yeah. We got the wave 5.
Look out, explosives.
Never, ever underestimate players' ability to beat what you think can't be beaten. That's always a very silly assumption to make that is always proved wrong every time.
Yeah. So if we manage to beat it before we go out with early access, we will tune it harder.
Look out, explosives.
Fair enough. It's always nice to have that challenge there. And you expect those difficulty levels to be the kind of thing that are pretty much gated behind your perk level as well. You're not going to be diving right in at level 0, taking those out.
I mean, hey, if someone wants to, they're more willing to try. And I'd love to see them videotape it.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Look out, look out.
He's got 3/4 of his life left.
Oh, he's almost dead, isn't he? He's looking a bit angry with himself, I gotta say.
Uh-oh.
Look out, look out.
That's a lot of poison.
And
put the free camera on here, so at least we get to spectate, see what is going on. Keep an eye on this fella.
Oh, watch out, Fever.
Now, you mentioned this game is going into early access. Do you have a date for that yet?
We do. That date's April 21st.
Not too far away, then.
Look out, look out.
He's almost done, guys. He's almost done.
No.
One more down.
He's almost down.
Get him, crossfire.
Stay on him.
Bring him down. There you go.
Nice.
Nicely done.
Yes.
Oh, look, slow-mo air. Oh, I just missed it.
We saw it fly past. That was never mind. Now, it's hard, I suppose, to ask any developer this, but we're going to ask it anyway, as we have the Dosh party in the middle here. Make it rain. How long do you anticipate this game to actually be in early access? It's an interesting business model because lately we've actually seen a number of promising early access games come out of early access as version 1, and they're clearly not done yet. They needed to be in the oven for a month or two more. And obviously, early access, it allows you to earn money on a game that's not finished, but you can never guarantee that amount. And we've even seen some unfortunate situations where a game's just been abandoned, and it's just like, we can't finish it, we're out of money. So, do you have sort of a projected time that this game is going to be in early access that you're budgeted for and you're ready to support?
I mean, we have our internal goals. Really, for us, it's going to kind of be determined by what happens when the fans get a hold of it.
Sure.
But typically, what we've seen with all of the rest of our games is that we've put our games out, and then maybe we'll have a beta before we release, and we get some feedback from the fans, but we don't have enough time to incorporate that feedback, so we incorporate that feedback and fix some bugs and add some new content. And then about 6 months later, we've come out with the definitive version of what the game really should have been when we launched. So, I mean, I think I wouldn't promise 6 months, but certainly every game that we've developed before, it took us about 6 months after we released it to have what we would have considered a finished version. So I would certainly say not less than 6 months.
So you feel that perhaps if you had the option with your previous games to done early access, you would have done it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we're saying is we're trying to show people, how to do early access right. We're not releasing a buggy pre-alpha or something like that. We're going to be releasing something that we consider to be a pretty polished beta. And, but with just a subset of the content that we'll be shipping with the full game. And then over, this coming year, we'll be adding that content in. We'll be adding new maps. We'll be adding new monsters. We'll be adding new boss characters. We'll be adding, more perk levels and more weapons. And I think that, when we hit our goals, we'll have what we consider, the full version of the game. But we're releasing something already that we consider to be very playable, very fun. It's got that killing floor core game loop there. So people are going to be getting the value for their money right out of the box.
Fantastic. Well, there you go, folks. There is a round of Killing Floor with the developers with the Commando class, and I'm going to be showing you a little bit of the support class as I give you my thoughts on the current state of Killing Floor 2. Bearing in mind, of course, this is pre-early access and my hopes for the full release version. I'd like to thank, of course, the guys from Tripwire for getting us into this. This, I believe, is the first real look by a pure YouTuber at Killing Floor 2. And, of course, you've got to have a look at the new boss character, which, if I recall correctly, that's a world first, right?
That's a world first. No one has seen Hans before.
Yep, and now Hans is very, very dead. But I'm sure he'll be back regardless. So thank you very much, guys, from Tripwire for showing us Killing Floor 2. The early access will be available later in April, which you'll be able to pick up if you so desire. Or, of course, the release date is going to be later in the year when it's done, essentially. So
when it's done. That's right.
Big thanks for watching, and I'm going to show you another round that I recorded earlier with the support class. So if you want to see big shotguns, we got plenty of that in a rather snowy environment. So without further ado, let's move on to that and my thoughts on the current version of Killing Floor 2. Alright folks, welcome to what is essentially the second part of the video. This is some gameplay that I recorded earlier on one of the other maps on normal difficulty, and I'm playing the support perk. And I decided to do this because we had a lot of feedback that said people really wanted to hear my opinion without the developers being there. So this is essentially a two-part video. We started off with the big interview, we did a little bit of battle chatter, we played in hard mode, we showed you the boss, which is actually a world exclusive, so hopefully you enjoyed that. And now I'm going to give you my thoughts on what I played. Well, I do like Killing Floor a great deal. I like the original a lot, and I've explained it a few times as to why I like it versus, say, other Horde mode games, particularly in comparison to Left 4 Dead. I think they're two very different titles, and Left 4 Dead is very much about getting from the start of the level to the end of the level. and you've got to accomplish various objectives to do that. You're always in constant motion, and as a result, you're dealing with these giant sort of hordes of zombies, and accuracy is maybe not as important. Ammo conservation maybe not as important. And of course, the selection of weapons available, even in Left 4 Dead 2, is woeful in comparison to something like Killing Floor, which has a lot of really nice guns in it. The thing about Killing Floor was it was more about defending against a horde, finding a place that's defensible, welding as many doors as you can, and holding that position until the wave ends, and conserving ammunition to do so, because accuracy is a big deal in Killing Floor. And the guns in particular have a lot of recoil. They feel really, really good, which is something that I hated about Left 4 Dead. I really didn't like the feel of the weapons. They felt very arcadey. There wasn't a lot of recoil on them. The player feedback was particularly weak, whereas Killing Floor just had this selection of weapons that felt like real guns. They had a ton of kick to them. Even the basic Beretta pistol was very enjoyable to use. I loved the Desert Eagles. The shotguns were awesome. Even the rifles, you just had to control your fire, and it really gave you this feeling that you were sort of an irregular military unit trying to hold out against a force of otherworldly horrors. And eventually, of course, you could become very powerful with things like automatic grenade launchers and RPGs and all sorts of crazy things like that. But Killing Floor 2 has the same sort of vibe to it. The weapons all feel very, very powerful, but they reward accuracy. Headshots are, of course, vital where possible. There are some enemies that you might want to disable in different ways, especially depending on the difficulty level, but you're aiming quite carefully, and especially when you trigger Z-time, which is the sort of bullet time effect that happens seemingly randomly throughout the game. You'll have noticed that happening. It happens to everyone, of course, because it can't really work any other way in a multiplayer game. You are rewarded for accuracy, and it looks great. I mean, you're tearing pieces of flesh off the enemies. Headshots look absolutely fantastic. And this time around, of course, the game could support a wider variety of more intricate animations. And as the developer said, you can do a headshot on someone that's doing a cartwheel towards you. That's entirely possible with the new engine. So just like Red Orchestra, just like pretty much any of the games that Tripwire makes, it's focused on the gunplay, and the gunplay feels great. And the developers accurately described why that is, and I would just reiterate their points. It really is about player feedback. It's about quality of animation. It's about tweaking the stats so that the guns feel powerful enough, so that you don't have bullet-spongy enemies, so that you don't have guns that have very little recoil that feel like lasers as opposed to actual military hardware. And the game does that really well, up to and including really detailed reload animations, which I really like the look of as well. They do put a lot of attention into the way that guns handle, and I think that, honestly, they do really well as a direct result of that. I think that's a very rewarding thing for the player, and it's something that Tripwire does better than almost any other developer. And that's really key to the Killing Floor experience, isn't it? If you don't have good gunplay, then the Killing Floor experience just isn't as enjoyable, because something like Left 4 Dead has all of those objectives, and you're moving through these very varied levels, as opposed to Killing Floor, where you find a place to defend and then you defend it. So the gunplay's got to be amazing, because it really is the only thing that matters, alongside sort of smaller considerations, like, of course, defending and healing your teammates, making sure that you're covering all angles, ammo conservation, and trying to earn as much money as possible to try and get the next weapon up. Now, of course, the build that we played only has 4 perks in it, and its selection of weapons is not particularly great. And for instance, they didn't have a variety of pistols, which is something that I loved. But from what it sounds like, they might even be creating a perk that actually has pistols with it, kind of like a gunslinger. It's sort of a dual-wield pistol class, which sounds like I would love that. I mean, I really loved akimbo Berettas and akimbo Desert Eagle hand cannons back in Killing Floor 1. We didn't really get to experience anything other than the Beretta in this build, as well as about 3 weapons for each class. With the support character, I had the double-barreled shotgun, the pump action, and the AA-12, which is the automatic, which chews through ammunition like no one's business. With the Commando, I had access to the AR-15, the AK-47, and 2 more assault rifles as well, the SA-80 bullpup as well as the SCAR. And they all felt very different. I think it helps that they put a different sight on each one of them, so they all feel a little bit different in that way. There's some nice differentiation there. I think the idea of using different optics to make a weapon maybe less desirable or more desirable is a good idea. I think there are some games, of course, that benefit from having optic customization, but in this case, when you start with the AR-15, it feels like you've got a bare-bones assault rifle using iron sights. They're difficult to use. It's limited to burst fire only. It's essentially a civilian weapon, and then you move on up to the bullpup, which is nice, but it's got issues at range. It pumps out a lot of bullets, but it feels like a carbine. It's the red-headed stepchild between an SMG and an actual full-on military assault rifle because of the bullpup design. And then you move up to something more traditional like an AK, and then the SCAR as well, which actually has a smaller capacity, but it looks like it's firing perhaps a heavier bullet, and it's very accurate at long range as well. So yeah, the weapon variety in the current build is not really there. I have no doubt that they will actually get there, and more to the point, if they follow the Killing Floor 1 DLC model, they'll probably release weapons packs as well. And weapon variety is really important for a game that has a very basic core gameplay loop, which is kill all the dudes. And there are plenty of games about killing all the dudes that are very boring, or just really badly put together, like God Mode, for instance, or RIPD, which incidentally came from the same company, and that really shouldn't surprise you. Horde mode games are easy. Horde mode games are, in many cases, mods for existing titles. They're a very simplistic game type. And if you want to differentiate your $30 game, which is what this game's going to cost, from a Horde mode mod, you've got to make sure that everything within that basic core gameplay loop works really, really well. And so far, it does seem to work really, really well. There's more variety in terms of monsters. They did add 2 monsters into this build. There's plenty more coming. You've, of course, got a brand new boss, which has various phases. It's very interesting to deal with, and it looks like there'll be multiple bosses in the game as well. And even the existing monsters gain new moves and abilities. And the harder difficulty you select, the more moves and abilities they gain without actually being tougher, which I think is a great way to handle difficulty. It's a much, much better way than Killing Floor 1, where everything became super bullet spongy. And there's so many FPS that fall into the bullet spongy trap. And the problem with bullet spongy enemies, in many cases, is that your weapons don't feel powerful anymore. And that element of player feedback where, hey, you send a bullet, even with your Beretta, at a clot's head, that head is gonna pop with a satisfying burst. If you don't have that anymore, then suddenly your weapons feel like pea shooters, and the overall player feedback is just ruined. So I think that's maybe the most important part of it. Now, all that said, it's still going to be a fairly repetitive game, because that's the nature of Killing Floor. You have to enjoy that core gameplay loop, otherwise you will get bored. And some of the criticism I've heard of Killing Floor is subjective but valid. When compared to something like Left 4 Dead, people are like, well, you know, you just stand around the same room shooting things. Is that actually really all that interesting? A lot of people don't find it interesting, but a lot of people do, because the gunplay is that damn good. And I've explained why I prefer Killing Floor to Left 4 Dead. But you do also have the perks to upgrade, and there's a lot more upgrading to do. In the initial version of Killing Floor, there were 6 perks. The Medic, Support, Sharpshooter, Commando, Berserker, and Firebug, and then they added Demolitions in there as well. They're looking at 10 this time around, so the chances are they're going to be differentiating classes even further. Because you had classes that really crossed the line in many cases. The Sharpshooter, for instance. He got a lever-action rifle, things like the crossbows and the M14, which is a marksman's rifle, but then he also got pistols. So he's focusing on like the 44 Magnum and the hand cannon, things like that, and he got upgrades to that. So you could have a pistol class, and it looks like they're going to do that. And it's almost the same with the Firebug as well. He had a bunch of flame weapons, but he also had the trench gun, which was a bit of a weird crossover with what the support would end up being as well. So they're looking to differentiate that, but they're not looking to punish you for picking weapons that aren't within your class, which means there will be a bit more variety, which is good. I think that's important. Being able to adapt on the fly and also just try out new weapons and have a lot of fun with them, I think is certainly vital. If anything, the biggest problem that this game is going to run into, if people are looking for a real evolution on the original, is game modes. Because the standard wave-based game mode seems to be the only thing they're looking at right now. Will they look into more game modes? Hard to say. Will they stick with the basic core gameplay loop and say, look, this has worked for like 10 years for the original game. People still play Killing Floor. Killing Floor is still popular. If I look at Steam charts right now, I get to see that currently there are 2,500 people playing Killing Floor. It's still one of the most popular multiplayer games on Steam, and that game has been out for almost a decade. That's impressive. So obviously the core gameplay loop works. Will they decide to take risks? More to the point, will it end up splitting the community in some way because there'll be servers with different rule sets? You can mess around, I think, with the core gameplay loop and still put additional rule sets and tweaks and mutators in there without messing with the idea of wave-based shop, and then boss. That seems to work well. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, seems to be the attitude here. And it's not as if they haven't advanced the technology. The game does feel better. The gunplay feels better because of the higher quality animations, because of the more varied enemy movement. The enemies feel quite unique in the way that they've been animated. They look a lot different. They move a lot differently. It's easier to identify different enemy types by their particular gait, for instance. And of course the game looks a lot better. The lighting effects are good, and I like how the dynamic lighting actually does affect how easy it is to defend a particular area, and using grenades actually has a risk in the sense that you could blow out the lights, which will make things a lot more dangerous. The persistent gore is obviously completely superfluous to the gameplay, but it looks great. It's pretty damn hard to argue that it's not fun to be able to paint an entire level in gore and actually just have it stick around. And the maps so far look really good. There's a lot of different places to fight in. I particularly enjoyed the subway tunnels in the Paris level. That was really, really good. Hopefully they'll have more variety there. This sort of Arctic research level is good. And we had a labs level as well that I'm going to be showing you in the really hard difficulty segment, which is not particularly long, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Map variety was not an issue in Killing Floor 1, although I have to wonder if advancing to Unreal Engine 3 is going to make it harder to make maps. I mean, it is an engine that's been around for a long time now. Admittedly, this is a heavily modified version of it, so I suppose modders are not going to have too many problems, but still, it is something to bear in mind. So far my impressions of Killing Floor 2 are positive. So far, from what I've seen. I've only seen 4 of the 10 perks, I've only seen a limited selection of weapons, 1 boss, a couple of maps, and, of course, a variety of enemies, which mostly comes from the original. Not all of them. We did see some others, but most of them are in the original. It is really cool to see the different ways that they can evolve, though. For instance, the Husk on higher difficulty levels, if you get too close to him, uses a handheld flamethrower, which can just kill you outright at high difficulty. Really interesting ideas. You've got to use different tactics depending on the enemies that you're going to come across now as you advance your difficulty level. I'm impressed by that. I think that's going to give it a lot more replayability. It's going to make the progression seem a great deal more meaningful. And I think it's the right way to go when it comes to cranking up the difficulty in an FPS horde game like this, rather than just increasing the HP. I like Killing Floor anyway. This seems like more of the same but better in pretty much every respect, and once the game's complete with the 10 perks and all the weapons and all of the enemies and bosses, I have no doubt that I'll be right back into Killing Floor the way that I always was. It's very much an evolution as opposed to a revolution. It does feel like a higher budget version of Killing Floor, and maybe it is about time. The original Killing Floor for Unreal Tournament came out 10 years ago in 2005. And then they released it as a retail version in 2009. So even the retail version is like 6 or 7 years old now. And I think it is about time that we've got a new Killing Floor. And it looks like they've got the budget for it. It's still got the cheese, it's still got the ridiculous voice acting, but there's a lot more variety in it now. We've even got characters that will actually make comments when they get a specific weapon because they happen to really like it. So there's a lot more personality now. They still have the ridiculous British accents. They still have the throwing money everywhere that everyone really liked from the original, but it definitely feels like there's a lot more budget behind it. It's a much more experienced studio, and even for an early build, we encountered no bugs. I mean, everything played smoothly. In terms of performance, the game runs really well. I ran it on Ultra. Obviously, it doesn't support SLI yet, but it was solid 60 all the time. Goes all the way up to 144. They haven't capped that. They've got field of view. They've got all the options in already that you would expect. So it's going to be a very strong early access launch, I feel, at the end of April. And there's a lot more to add. I think I won't play it too much during the early access period because I really want to play it when all of the perks are in and when all of the weapons are available. So it's going to maybe be a Darkest Dungeon-like experience for me where I'll play for a few hours and I'm like, you know, I'm good until release. I want to experience the full game right now. But that doesn't mean it's not going to still be a very viable horde-based shooter even in early access, because right now the build feels good. It works. It's that simple. It works well. It's more polished than some of the games that have come out of early access. So you got to give him credit for that, and I suppose that comes with experience. But yeah, it's looking good. It's looking really, really good. I hope you enjoyed this early preview of Killing Floor 2, and I'm going to leave you with some uncommentated gameplay from the hardest difficulty called Hell on Earth. It doesn't last that long, but you're going to get to experience a little bit of that. Thank you very much for watching, folks, and a big thanks to the guys at Tripwire for giving me early access to this game. We're the first guys on YouTube to be able to do it outside of the traditional press outlets, and of course, they gave us the world exclusive on the boss, which we very much appreciate. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I will leave you with slaughter. Horrible, horrible slaughter. I'll see you next time.
Send these things back to hell!
A place like this could shrug off a serious missile strike.
No one starts crying, okay?
Stay sharp, I'm reloading. How's that feel?
Just down the road, but there are plenty left.
That better? I'll fix you up. Buckle up, folks. Let's keep you in one piece. You're ready to rip someone a new. Hey! Much better. Drawing. Never mind.
Cobweb loose. Gotcha. He's down. Policeman. Cheers. Better. Load, you bastard. Load. Ready to rip some of the news. Want me to get your attention, eh? Job done.
The pod safely open. Nicely done.
Man, have you seen yourself in a mirror? No, wait. Better not. Trust me.
To the trader. Allez.
Ready for a wee
How's the gang
badgering?
doing?
Feeling pretty good, thanks.
Where's
You earned the
action
money.
gone? Need to
Now
earn some
spend it.
money.
Man, I'm out of money. Anyone help?
We're almost out of time. Make your choices.
If I'm not killing, I'm not earning, which is bad.
Door ceiling.
Hurry up. Zeds are getting closer.
Lock this bad boy up tight. Let's open it up.
Know what?
Time's
I'm
up.
almost impressed you're still
Go kill
alive.
some Zeds.
Finished.
Thanks for those words of inspiration.
Door ceiling.
Goody Snoop, cheers!
Watch me.
As
I'm
they
reloading.
say.
Cut him down to size!
Wait a tick, reloading.
I'll sort that! Watch out!
Did you rip someone
Let's
new?
call that your warm-up.
And the Bostinator takes round 1. You see that?
Reloading.
Just picking them off. Doors are back. Gore knocking you all down.
Let's keep you in one piece. Not out the woods. I'll fix you up.
Right on the money. Where did you disappear after reloading? See, you know me now, don't you?
Slice them to bits. Easy as pie. I'm burning!